Over preparation is masked as procrastination.
So listen, social media is your cheat code, but only if you use it right. In order for you to actually have the breakthrough that you want, you gotta start just doing. Get off the ground, wake up with a mission and go forward.
The real reason most businesses fail isn't because it's a bad idea. It's because you're solving the wrong problem. In today's episode, we're gonna talk about how we were able to close a $15,000 deal with one phone call.
So listen, social media is your cheat code, but only if you use it right. If you are a struggling entrepreneur or founder who's looking to increase the revenue of your business, today's video just might be for you. Because we're gonna break down 3 critical mistakes that most entrepreneurs are making. We're gonna share the strategy that helped our business break through. And if you stick around for the end of the video, we're gonna share some templates and some scripts that's gonna help you get the outcomes and increase the revenue in the way that you actually want it to. So in today's episode, let's have some fun. Sarah, I don't think we actually took time to introduce ourselves.
We did not.
In the last conversation.
We just went to whooping.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we do. Glory, glory!
We may or may not have been listening to Kirk Franklin right before this episode, or right before we started shooting. So for you all that don't know, my name is Sara Lifestyle. I am an influencer, creator, an entrepreneur. I'm the co-founder of Mavericks Media, and investor, angel investor, venture capitalist, and all things marketing is what I'm obsessed with. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and in my experience, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've effed around and found out a few times. And so I am here, and we are here to talk you through what that framework looks like so that you can bypass some of the mistakes that we've made in our careers, but also teach you and show you what things you should be doing in order to experience success that you're looking for in your business.
I think one of the funnest parts about sitting down to have conversations, we could talk about stuff that's fresh, that's happening right now. But before we dive into all of those things, my name is Tilmon. I have a lot of sales experience. I know we've talked in conversation about 13 years of sales experience, but I've sold everything from $300 to being a part of deals that were $300,000. So I've had a little bit of experience going through sales processes and creating revenue out of magic. But I think it's important for people watching this, if you're watching this and you're an entrepreneur, just thinking about some of those mistakes and thinking about some of the things that we've been through. Our goal is to disrupt and dominate. That's what our entire business was built on. But it requires systems and frameworks in order to build that success. So that's a little bit more about me. We've done some things over the last couple of years that have allowed us to close some significant deals and been a part of negotiations, been a part of just like some fun things that happen as an entrepreneur, and day in and day out, whether it's creating frameworks, building systems, literally that's what we have to do. And I think what's important right now is starting to think about artificial intelligence.
Right.
I know we weren't even planning on talking about that, but part of what we're doing as part of our business is incorporating AI in everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. So can you maybe talk a little bit about, and I know I'm surprising you by saying this, talk a little bit about how we incorporate AI, specifically ChatGPT and Claude and some of those other things within our business.
Something that we say quite often is that if you are someone who's concerned about AI taking jobs or someone taking your job, the truth is it's not AI that's going to take over your job, it's someone using AI that's going to take your job.
Right.
And when we are in the current business, or we're watching how trends were, imagine back in the 90s when the internet became a thing, right? When Google became a thing, when eBay became a thing, all of those things were disruptors. And I was listening actually to Diary of a CEO recently, and I don't remember who the guest was, but he was saying how at the time, we don't realize how much of a disruption or how much of an opportunity something is until it's 20 or 30 years later. And so even with the internet, we didn't realize, or we undervalued or underestimated the value of the internet. And the same thing is happening now with some of the conversations that we're seeing is people are undervaluing the impact and value of AI.
Right.
The tools that are available to you, I mean, we also talk, or I say quite often, I don't invest in solopreneurs, but that is changing. We're gonna start seeing solopreneurs, 2, 3, 4, 5 small-based companies that are going to eventually hit that $100 million or the $1 billion mark and hit those unicorns.
Yep.
10 years ago, we're not having those conversations about solopreneurs being able to build such extensive, massive companies that are sellable, because the value, and it just required so many people to do the work.
Yep.
Now you can have a virtual assistant who is ChatGPT, you can have Claude, and you can have Poppy, and you can have just something and systems that can build the framework for you in a way that you didn't need before. You needed a copywriter before, now you can kind of have some help. Now you will need someone who can write prompts. Like, it can't do that for you. You'll need someone who can use the English language well, if that's the language that you're speaking. So it won't take your job, but it will make it easier. If you need a book editor, ChatGPT can do that for you, at least in the simplest sense. And so when it comes to building some of the systems that you're unsure of, or some of the language, AI definitely helps in those realms. I know that was really long-winded, but what are your thoughts?
It wasn't long-winded. It covered really everything that I was hoping that you would talk about, but just part of what I do every morning is incorporating some type of AI functionality within my day. So when I go plan for my week, I share all the tasks that I hope to accomplish for the week and put that into ChatGPT in this particular case. And then I say, hey, look, this is how much time I want to spend on these things. Help me calendar my week, but I want to focus on revenue generating activity. And we will talk a little bit more about that. But before I get too long-winded, let's talk about those 3 critical mistakes that most entrepreneurs are making right now that's stopping them from generating revenue. So first and foremost, this is one of the things that I did: over preparation. And what over preparation truly is fear being disguised. And I say that because of my story. So when I started this entrepreneurial journey, I had to really reflect on where I was in my life. Despite all the things that were happening, I looked at the amount of time that I wasted just telling myself that I was preparing for that journey. So I graduated from college, moved to Atlanta, worked at a job for a year and a half. Then I decided to move to LA. And I said, I will have this job only for a certain amount of time, because the next thing I'm gonna do is take the leap of faith in entrepreneurship. So I was doing a lot of preparation. And I can't say that time was completely wasted, because I learned so much. But the truth of the matter was, if things didn't happen the way that they happened, I probably would have spent more time in the corporate world. And I spent a significant amount of time there, but I was learning sales, I was learning operations, I was learning marketing, I was learning how to properly build an infrastructure, which ultimately is what you need to run a business. Sara and I talk about that a lot. But the truth of the matter is, when I said to myself, I wasn't gonna spend too much time working for somebody else, I looked up, year 1 passed me by. I looked up, 3 years passed me by. I looked up, and the next thing I knew, 11 years had passed me by, and I was still working for other people, not really doing what I wanted to do. Now, luckily, I spent a lot of time learning throughout that process, but the truth of the matter is, you have to be willing to take that leap of faith. So if you're over preparing and over analyzing and doing all of these things, right now is the perfect opportunity to change that, because you have an AI assistant or somebody who is kind of a cheat code for your business in order to create that momentum that you need. Literally incorporating AI into what I do every day, what we do every day, making my sales presentations better. It makes me better, it makes me more efficient, makes me more effective. So the easiest thing for you to do is really get started. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through all of these conversations. But ultimately, whatever you're telling yourself right now in terms of preparation and all the things that you need to do, you're probably over preparing. You're probably over analyzing and positioning yourself to stay exactly where you are. And if you want to change that, you really have to start building momentum in order to position yourself to do that. Now, this isn't obviously it's not financial advice. I was trying to make a joke, but it didn't come out properly, so never mind. But Sara, why don't you talk a little bit more about the next mistake that we see most entrepreneurs make?
Before I even get to the next mistake, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. I'm looking directly at the camera. Over preparation is masked as procrastination. Because you know, while you are over preparing, overthinking, over analyzing, you're not going to make the next move. And entrepreneurship is literally building the plane while you're flying. You're not going to know what mistakes are going to happen. You're not going to know what works. You're not going to know what is successful. You can, theoretically, I know how football works. Theoretically, I could be a quarterback. Theoretically, I understand the X's and O's. But once I'm in the game and my feet hit that soil or that turf, all hell breaking loose. I'm out of there. It's not going to work. It's not happening. So be realistic with yourself. And yes, preparation is important. But when you start to overanalyze and over-prepare, you are just procrastinating the results you're not going to get, which is why we also say you can't be upset with the results you don't receive for the work you didn't do.
I'll take it back really quick. Just from thinking about this second mistake that we make, and I say this because it was a mistake that I was making. I told myself that I would really take that jump as a speaker and doing all the things that I do. Now, of course, I was speaking nonetheless, whether it was at my job or certain gigs that I would pick up throughout the process. But the next part of that was you're hiding. And that's a mistake that a lot of us make. We decide we're going to hide, and that really stops our growth. And so what do I mean when I say we're hiding? You're not making the posts on social. You're not putting yourself out. You're not creating that brand awareness, which is impossible for people to pay you if they don't know you exist. If they don't see you showing up on a day-to-day basis, if they don't see your posts. And it doesn't mean you have to post every single day. I don't post every single day. In fact, I'm against posting every single day if there's no strategy behind it. Because the truth of the matter is you could post every day, you could post 10 times a day, but you have to have a certain strategy. Now think about it this way. We follow ESPN, or at least I follow ESPN. You just made the football reference, or SportsCenter, or you follow, I don't know, 24/7, whatever it is that you follow. But because they have a framework for what they do and what they represent, you are willing to follow them. And you know they're gonna post 72 times a day, and you're following them anyway. But as an entrepreneur, you're afraid to post. Wait, if I post, these people are gonna unfollow me if I post 3 times a day. Well, if you're not doing anything significant, absolutely they're gonna unfollow you. If you're not doing anything strategically, absolutely they're going to unfollow you because you're not creating that value. And we'll talk about creating value here in a second, but you're hiding for no reason. You're hiding and you're telling yourself that you are going to do X, Y, Z, but you're not even executing on a day-to-day basis, which ultimately what that means is you don't have a chance to bring the money in. And as old boy said when he was selling cars, I'm trying to go where the money resides. So if you're trying to go where the money resides, you got to show up for yourself every day.
And something that I find really interesting about some of the conversations that we have where founders come to us for an intensive or creators, if you want to be a speaker and you want to be paid to be a speaker, but we don't see you speak, and also this is hurting my own feelings because that's what happened with me, I want to be paid to speak, but there was nowhere where I was speaking.
Who said something to you about
Hush
that?
now, mind your business. Mind you, nobody asked you.
This is my business.
That is true. You're minding the business that's paying us.
It's literally my business.
And let's say you're a musician and we don't see any music. You're a singer, but you don't sing. You want to be a writer, but we don't see your writing. You're an author, but we don't see anything that would showcase or show what your expertise is and the value that you can bring. If you are an entrepreneur and you're afraid of people seeing you build publicly, that is a problem. People tend to love founders and companies that they can resonate with, that they feel like they were on a journey with, or someone that they're invested in. And sometimes that investment is time, attention, and then it's their money. But you cannot expect to be paid, which is why we're here. I'm a Capricorn. I'm going where the money resides, as you just said. If you are someone
where the money reside, where the money reside.
And so you can't be afraid.
We can delete that.
You can't be afraid of building publicly or letting people see you through your process publicly. It is a what we're noticing with the industry in particular is the companies, the founders, it doesn't even matter what the industry is. I mean, we're watching it on social media where if it's coffee shops or there's someone who's with a fashion brand and he's taking people along with him on this journey. And where it started with, I think he had 2,000 or 3,000 followers because it was like his friends and family and his like local community. Now he's got millions of followers for people who are truly invested in the process, and they felt like they got to help. They felt like they got to choose the colors, or they felt like their opinion mattered. And to your audience, that is valuable. So you cannot be afraid. And the truth is, if you want to be paid, you can't be invisible.
That's a bar.
Thank you.
If you want to be paid, you can't be invisible.
You can't be invisible.
Got to show up for yourself and the people that you love is something that I say. That's irrelevant to what we're talking about, but I just wanted to say that because she just had a bar and I wanted to make my own bar.
That's crazy.
So all jokes aside, the next mistake that I think about a lot is so many people simply discount their value. And that seems to strike a chord with you.
Boy, does it ever.
Do you want to talk through that really quick?
Well, I got stories for days on that one.
That's what we're here for. We're here for the stories. People hear it. But so discounting your value, as you sort of think about all the things you're doing as an entrepreneur, I think one of the biggest mistakes sub mistakes that we make is we're willing to take on anybody and discounting ourselves. But what happens when you discount your value, you often make an uncomfortable situation for you and the potential client. Why do I say that? Because what happens is you're putting yourself in a position, let's say for instance, you have a $2,500 or a $3,500 offer and you allow somebody to receive a discount and they're paying $1,000. Every single time you decide to sit down to focus on working for that client who paid you $1,000 when your offer is $2,500, you're letting yourself do less work. You're allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. You're allowing yourself to create a situation where you look at this and you're like, okay, well, I'm getting $1,000 for a $2,500 job. And now that $1,500 gap is the less of what you should be really focused on. But also it's a situation now where they're getting less of you and you're getting less of yourself because you're investing your time on the person who's paying you $1,000 when there's somebody out there who's willing to pay you $2,500 or $3,500 or $5,000 for actually doing the work that you do and being the professional that you are. So in discounting your value just to bring on a client or discounting your value, they get less work. You make an investment of your time that's not worth your time because of what you can do. Let me say this. If you charge $2,500 for your thing and somebody pays you $1,000 for that thing, unless there's some other benefit of doing that work, you should say no. Every single time. You have to create a space for yourself where you're able to say no to people and be willing to reject people who are not a good fit for you. I know it's uncomfortable when money is not coming in. I know it's uncomfortable when you're trying to generate revenue, but you don't want to create a situation for yourself where now your value is actually $1,000 instead of it being the $2,500 that you consistently charge other people. Because also what you're going to do is you're going to create a situation for the other people who are paying you $2,500. Now they're going to look up and be like, oh wait, he charged $1,000 to this person. So don't let it be a situation where they're communicating with each other, because now it gets really uncomfortable for you and whatever clients that you're working with.
There's multiple things to consider when you discount your value. The other issue you run into, and this has happened to us, which is why we're telling you not to do it, is we did this as a favor to a friend of a friend. But the person is not someone that we know. Again, it was a connection through a mutual friend. What ended up happening is this person expected $2,500 work.
Oh, no, they expected $5,000 work.
Facts. They expected $5,000 work for the discounted price, which only led to frustration with myself, with the client, and you don't want to put yourself in a position where that happens, and then the client actually undervalues your value.
Facts.
And any effort that you make.
That's what I was trying to say, but it didn't come out like that.
No, I just condensed it.
Oh, okay.
You have to be so confident in your offer You have to be so confident in the value that you provide. You have to be so confident in the services that you provide that you can walk away even when it's tight in the business, when there isn't revenue coming in. Because I'll give you an example. We have a client who was charging several $100s for their photography services. And the first thing I said is you need to raise your prices.
Yep.
Because also the type of clients that you attract at the $500 level is not the same as the $5,000 or $10,000 level, which was the clients that he wanted. He wanted to work with brands. He wanted to work with high-end clients and celebrities and magazines. You can't do that at the 500. I mean, you can, but in this particular case, it was not possible. So one of the conversations that we had, I remember, I'll never forget. I was like, you need to at least raise your prices to $3,000. But honestly, he needed to be at the $5,000 level. And I could confidently say that to him because the work was exceptional. That was exceptional work. There's 20 years of experience here. There's 20 or 10 years worth of the editing and the software. And even just to pick up the camera, we're talking about a very, very expensive camera. Just to pick up the camera, he shouldn't even wake up and get out of bed for less than $2,500. And the conversation he had with me was, Sarah, I'm scared. We spent at least 2 hours talking about, I'm scared to raise my prices. What if people don't want to hire me? What if I lose my current clientele? What if people aren't going to recommend me anymore because I'm just outside of their price range? And here's the truth. You can either work, and I asked him, what's the revenue that you want to make per month? And he told me what the number was. So you can either get 10 clients and do 10 shoots for $500, or you shoot 2 clients for $5,000, and then you're done for the month based on the revenue that this person wanted. So the truth is, you have to be so confident to walk away. And now this particular photographer charges between $5,000 and $10,000 just to wake up. Now he's working with brands, negotiating deals with him at $25,000 and $50,000 a piece just for campaigns. The money is there, but you have to be okay walking away from $500 knowing you might outprice your current clientele, but what's the goal that you want, and how are you going to hit those revenue goals? There's only so much time, especially as a photographer, there's only so much time as a one-person company or business or service. You can't coach everybody. So you're either going to end up burning yourself out with 25 clients a month to reach your revenue goal, or you raise your prices and it's 4 people a month.
Yep.
And now you get to give the best value and your best self to these 4 people rather than spreading yourself so thin that there's nothing left for some of your clients.
There's a Harvard study, and I don't think we talked about it. It says that entrepreneurs who raise their prices by 20% were able to, entrepreneurs who raise their prices by 20% lost 4% of their clients, but they increase their revenue by 15%. So if you only lose 4% of your clients, you increase your revenue by 15%, you better raise your prices, because the reality is this: yesterday's price ain't today's price. Oh. And as you get better, as you learn more, as you get more reps in what you're doing, you have to be willing to raise those prices. And don't be afraid to say no. Trust me, sometimes it's going to be hard to say no to people who want to pay you. But just because people want to pay you doesn't mean they're the right fit for you, doesn't mean they're the right fit for your brand. You have to be willing to say no. And I can't emphasize and reiterate that enough. But I know what we talked about earlier was sharing our framework, our breakthrough strategy, our outcome-based planning. And what I want you to do, there's going to be a template under this video, and I'm pointing like the regular people do on YouTube when they have some templates and they want you to download them. It's gonna be under this video. What I'm gonna do is share some templates that we do for our revenue generating activity and some strategies, some scripts that you can download starting right now. So here's what I want you to do. In the next 24 hours, I want you to create an action plan. So what it is, when I was in my sales career, what we focus on is revenue generating activity. Because the truth is, you are a huge part of another person's business. So you kind of have to take that same mentality in your business. And I know you don't want to be a salesperson, but you're a business owner. So you kind of have to be willing to sell. So I want you to start with this. Break down how much money you want to make in a month. And I think the cool thing to say now is I want to make $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. So $10,000 a month, that's your revenue target. So write that down. Then break down the activities that you need to do in order to hit that revenue target. But even before breaking down the activities, break down how many clients you're gonna have to have in order to hit that $10,000. So say for instance, if you have a $5,000 offer, then you need to get 2 clients. Once you hit those 2 clients, you got to think about how many conversations that you need to have. So say for instance, if for every 10 people you talk to, you close 2 of them. So now your close rate is 20%. So in order for you to get to 10 conversations, how many phone calls, how much outreach do you need to do in order to hit that? Whether it's DMs on Instagram. I get hit up from these 16, 17-year-old kids who want to edit videos for me all the time. And they all have the same structured thing. And I'm like, man, if you would have just said, would you be opposed to having a conversation? Maybe I would have considered it, because that's the type of language that I speak. But in addition to that, I know you haven't really done the research. So again, think about how much money you want to make, how much money you want to generate. The next step is break down how many clients you need to close in order for that to happen, or the language that I speak, break down how many clients that need to agree with you to partner with you in order to collaborate. The next thing is breaking down the activities. So how many outreaches, what type of outreaches do you need to do? Are you making sales phone calls? Are you doing cold outreach? Are you DMing people? Are you hitting people up on LinkedIn? Are you just doing overall lead generation? What are those activities that you need to do? And then decide how much time you're going to invest in doing that. So each week you want to know, all right, Monday is my planning day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm hitting meetings. I'm making phone calls. I'm reaching out to 100 people per day. Shout out to Alex Harmozy. 100 people per day to execute on getting those 10 conversations so I can close 2 people every single month. That's a simple framework, and we call that revenue generating, but we also call that outcome-based planning. That's how you structure your business. That's how you structure your day. But don't be afraid. The templates will be below, and the scripts for those of you who have never made phone calls in your life to secure people for your business. I'll share a couple of scripts with you. So one of the things that we say for our company is we want to disrupt. But not only do we want to disrupt, we want to dominate. So you're probably telling yourself right now, all those same excuses. I'm not ready. What do you need to do to prepare? Every single day, you have to give yourself something. If you're working a 9 to 5 like I was in corporate. Some people even call me corporate, but that's a conversation for another day. What is it that's going to help you prepare for this moment, this season of your life? And as you decide on that, decide on something that you're gonna do for your business every single day. How many phone calls are you gonna make? Who are you going to reach out to? What specific industries are you going to have discussions with? Because the truth of the matter is, as you create those scripts, it gets a little bit easier. So if I know I'm going to call 20 med spas, guess what I can do? I can make those conversations specific to med spas. If I'm going to call, let's say, 20 barbershops, I can make those scripts specific to barbershops. And if you know me, I get my hair cut every week, or at least I try to get my hair cut every week. So if I'm reaching out to barbershops, I'm also tying that into the conversation. What does that mean? As I explore those relationships, hey, I know you have some clients who come in there every week. What is it that those clients are looking for when they come to your business? And how do you structure your days in order to be most effective as a barber? So it's all of these things that you want to build within your script as you begin to not only position yourself, but part of it is educating your clients, and you want to show up with your expertise so they know you understand the things that they're struggling with. You understand the pain that they face. And then you are the proof. You are the proof of the work. You can share, hey, these are the clients that I typically work with. Here's what we do. And they will see themselves in those stories. I'm giving you some stuff that I probably shouldn't even be giving you yet, because I don't even know if you're ready for that black belt knowledge, but here we are. So the next part of that is you go from saying I'm not ready to saying, I know your favorite thing is it's oversaturated.
It's oversaturated. It's oversaturated. It's too competitive.
Yep.
Could you imagine if Powerade said that about Gatorade? Could you imagine if Prime said that about all the other energy drinks? Could you imagine if Vitamin Water or Coconut Water or Vita Coco had said, oh, it's too competitive, or there's no space for me, it's oversaturated. Oh, I don't want to start my podcast because it's oversaturated. I don't want to be a beauty creator because it's oversaturated. The truth is, again, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, it's only oversaturated at the bottom.
Started from the bottom.
And now we're here. The stat, even with podcasts, and I'm going to use it since we're doing this now, is 90% of podcasts don't even make it to episode 19. If you get to episode 20 or 21, you're in the top 1% of podcasters. That's it. Sure, there's 1,000,001 beauty brands, but the people who are actually at the top doing it well, there's not that many people doing it.
Yeah.
And here's also the truth, and I'm probably gonna hurt some people's feelings when I say this. Most of you who are watching either aren't ready, so you're making an excuse. 2, you're saying it's competitive or oversaturated because it gives you a reason to not move forward. Here's the truth. If you are someone who is passionate, if you are someone who is motivated by the work and purposeful work that you're doing with your brand, service, or just whatever it is that you're trying to build as a founder, most people won't implement. The key to being a great founder, especially at the beginning, is implementation. Fail fast, learn the lesson, move on, let it go. You have to have a very, very short memory, and speed is the name of the game. By the time someone else is making their first mistake, I've made 50. Because I'm just trying stuff, or whatever Cat Williams said, you just trying. That's the truth. It's you continue to try over and over again until you master your craft, and then you find the new issue or problem that you need to solve within your business, and then you're building teams and behavior and human behavior, and then you come up with the next challenge. But the truth is, most people will not implement. They won't implement fast enough, and they won't fail fast enough. And then some people just get stuck and get in their way of their, in their head. But the truth is, again, it's not that things aren't oversaturated. It's not that it's not too competitive. Sure, at the bottom, if you can get past the water at the bottom, if you can get past all the guppies and the fish and whatever else, and move to the next step, it literally becomes less and less. There's not really competition at the top. And when you start reaching that middle and you're still moving, who you assumed would be your competitors will be the very advisors and mentors that you're going to be looking for. But you're not going to get advisors and mentors if I don't see you do the work.
Yeah.
If I don't even see you implementing, if I don't see you trials and tribulations and trial by fire and throw yourself to the wolves over and over again, you're not going to be able to get the mentors that you're seeking because you're not even ready. Everyone comes to us and says, oh, I want to mentor. Sarah, can you mentor me? And my answer 99.9% of the time is hell no. Because you're not ready. I haven't seen you do the work. And for the folks that, we have 2 folks now that work for us, it started off as a mentorship. But the truth is, we said yes because we saw them do the work. The grind is too hard. Most days are boring. So you have to be able to be repetitive and feel good about the boring work that is required in entrepreneurship to become successful. But you can't do that if you don't do the work daily, if you're not implementing daily, if you're not building teams and structures and infrastructure daily, if you don't have your system down pat, or at least if you're not trying stuff every day. It's really hard for somebody to mentor you and people are willing. I'm telling you, my competitor, who I thought were my competitors, ended up being my greatest mentors. And something that is kind of an extra bonus point, just so you all know, you're supposed to outgrow your mentors. That's a normal thing. Don't be afraid of outgrowing your mentors. It's not personal. That just means you're doing the right work, and you need to be in the rooms that can help you excel and grow, but you can't do that being stagnant, sitting at the same table, eating the same breadcrumbs. You're just not going to be satisfied, and you're not going to be able to grow to get to that next level. So I said all that to say, was it Drake who said it's what did he say? What was his exact words when he said it's lonely at the top?
It's a lot of people say it's lonely at the top.
Y'all know what I'm saying. I can't remember. I'm blanking on what I'm trying to say. But the truth is, it's not as competitive as you think. It's not as, and even to get to like the top 10% of your niche, it's not competitive. You just have to do the work.
Man, show up. Like, keep it simple. I think a lot of us will stress ourselves out as we're overanalyzing, over-preparing, and trying to overdo stuff. And some of us, even on the other side of that, overwork ourselves. Yep. Like, I overwork myself a lot. But
same.
at the end of the day, like doing the boring stuff, you just have to make it fun.
Yep.
Before we started this conversation, we were listening to Juvenile and Kirk Franklin, like making the day fun, preparing yourself to show up every day and like building a process for yourself. Yeah. But I know you're probably still watching this and you're like, I don't know what to do or how to get started or whatever it may be. The tools are below. Our business breakthrough kit, what we call it, that's gonna be below. Like that's how you get started. And some of you are watching this still and saying, like, even with those things, I don't know the next steps. So Sara and I talk about a lot of throwing yourself to the wolves. Yeah. And you won't make it happen unless you get the reps. I remember when I first started like making cold outreach and calling dealerships that I eventually began to work with, I just had to get through the first phone call, get through that first conversation, get rid of the cobwebs, work through those things. So now you can get better. Think about it in terms of sports. If Steph Curry is taking shots every day and LeBron is taking shots every day and going to the NFL, if Patrick Mahomes is making passes every day, if now my boy Shedeur Sanders is making passes every day, you have to be willing to do the same thing for yourself. So in order for you to actually have the breakthrough that you want, you gotta start just doing. Get off the ground, wake up with a mission and go forward. So after you download this kit, one of the things that we do, and I'm not saying it's for everybody, I promise you it's not for everybody. Because it's also, if you don't want to pay for it, it's just, there's probably somebody else out there for you. Sara and I do like a 3-day intensive, which I know we've talked about before. You don't know what to do. So how can we develop that infrastructure? Through that intensive, we actually walk you through the process. Mm-hmm. How do you sell? What do you sell? Who do you sell to? What other systems do you need in order to be successful? That's what we spend time doing and teaching you through that process and the team members that you'll have to have. So if you feel like that might be something you're interested in, obviously download the kit, let us know, reach out to us, whether it's Instagram. There's a way, no, not really on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or email us, info@maybricks.com. We'll follow up with you on that. Follow up is also a word that I don't really like to use, but I'm gonna just be nice and say we'll follow up with you. No, all jokes aside, like we'll connect with you and we will talk through if that's something that might make sense for you. But ultimately, with everything that we're doing, our goal is to help you do, as we say, to disrupt and dominate. So if you're watching this video and you found value, make sure you are subscribed for more content, as the 6-year-old nephew that I have says, and we will see you on the next one.